Hey, ladies.
Hey.
Hey, it is so good to see and hear you all. Wow, y'all, episode 7. Can you believe it?
That is so wild.
It's crazy. This thing is it's going so fast and so good. And we just want to thank everybody up front for tuning into the Heart of Chat. This has been an amazing ride. So
Yes, thank you.
yes, thank you. Thank you. So today we're going to talk about resilience after the storm or a storm, something that may have come into your life and derailed you for a bit, but then you persevered afterwards. And yeah, I just want to welcome everybody to this episode. We're going to talk about, things that we've been through and how we've come out clearly on the other side. And that's why we're here today, to sort of show you all how we did it, maybe give you some practical tips along the way, and also talk about our experiences. I think that's a key thing in how, you can relate to us and how we relate to you. So Jeanette, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so this episode couldn't be more timely, so I'm just really happy to be doing this with you all, because I think it's going to be really helpful to a lot of people out here, and a lot of people don't really talk about some of the things we're going to talk about today. So Shauna, I know we've talked about your love story, and we talked a lot about relationships and all those things, but there's another piece to your story that you haven't really shared a lot of, and I know we've kind of waited a while to to share this. So do you want to talk a little bit more about your story and like life for you after the storm? Or
Yes, because it was a storm. It was a storm. It was a storm. It was the hardest storm that to date that I've ever had to go through. So to recap really quickly, I was married to my soulmate and we were together for 24 years, and unexpectedly he passed away. By the time this episode come out, it'll be a year and a half now. So in 2019, he passed away. I took care of him. So my husband was diagnosed with a disease called glioblastoma, which is unfortunately becoming popular, and there's no cure for it. And it's a granddaddy of all brain tumors. He has 7 masses in his head from ear to ear, still going to work, still functioning, still being great to me and all of those things. At the same time that he was experiencing this, I had a water exercise injury from a water exercise class that I went to. To this date, we don't know what I did to my leg. I came home, I took a nap, and my leg doubled in size and I couldn't walk. And it hurt. It was a pain that I've never felt before in my life. And I remember calling my husband from my nap saying, I can't walk, and I had to hold on to his shoulder, and I'm hopping and trying to figure it out. I thought maybe my leg fell asleep. I didn't understand why, I didn't know what was going on. So by the time I got doctors to recognize that I had an issue with my leg, it took almost 2 weeks before I got an MRI and all of those things, because I have premature arthritis that started when I was 25 years old, and it's genetic in both of my knees. So the doctors thought that maybe I inflamed the arthritis some type of way up to my thigh. And I'm like, I know how arthritis behave. It's chronic, but it comes and it goes. And I know when it's coming on, and I know when it's going out, and I know when I'm feeling good, when I'm not. And this wasn't going away. It was this tightness. And what really got me was within the first week, I would try to stand up and I would feel this rush in my leg, like just this feeling of liquid in my leg. And I'm called them and I said, hey guys, I got some internal leg bleeding going on. I need to get in. So by the time I got in and they did it, my doctor was livid, because he had another doctor that I spoke with and they didn't do nothing that they were supposed to do. So he did everything stat, which was great. We got all the results that day, and I had to get to specialists right away. Everything that I experienced and felt in my leg was true. And I'm one of their first cases where they were like, they've never met someone so in tune with their inner body like that. So I ended up having to make a decision of, will it heal by itself? What I did to my leg, they don't know, but I did tear my muscles, meniscus, and ligaments, and then I had the internal leg bleeding, and it was on the level of a football player getting hit on impact on the field, pro football. I know. I know, only Shauna.
I know, I'm telling you. Yes.
Tylenol. I don't know, like, I'm just gonna sleep it off. I'm like,
yes.
And that was my attitude at the beginning. And I kind of like, my family and friends were like, you took too long to get to the bottom of this. But really it was, I'm like to go to the natural stuff first. I'm like, okay. And I try to process and like, what can I do about this? Maybe but with that, after that first week, I'm like, oh, this is serious. This pain's not going away. And I mean, it was off the charts pain. I'm trying to work and everything. My husband was like, no, you going in, blah, blah. So my doctor got it initiated. So I had two choices at that point. I could let it heal by itself because our body has their own way of coming back and healing, or I can go for surgery. So of course I went for let's heal. So we tried to heal, and the week went by and I looked at my leg and it was every color of the rainbow. And I'm like, oh man, it's infected. So it hurt to the touch, everything. I'm like, oh my goodness. At the same time, I'm seeing some things going on with my husband and I'm not quite sure what's happening with him. And so I went in, and so we went to go grab a bite to eat. And when we went, I gave him my order and he said, you stay in the car, because I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk. So he said, you stay in the car. I'll go grab the sandwiches. I'm like, okay. So he goes in and grabs the sandwiches. He comes back like 5 minutes later and he had the strangest look on his face I've never seen before. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? And he said, I went in there. I got in line. I got up to the counter. They asked me what I wanted and I couldn't tell them what I wanted. And I had no clue why I was in there. Now, let me tell you about my husband. You talk about a rocket science, a genius. He has a physics chemistry degree. This guy is a financial advisor. He puts $1 million properties together, real estate, for the banks and for his private business. This was extremely out of the norm for him not to remember why he was in there and that's when I realized, you got to get checked out, right? So we're checking each other. You got to get checked out and you got to get checked out. So my leg is infected. We're clear on that. It's my birthday. It's November 22nd. And so I go, head, leg. We're going to get your head checked out first, and then we'll go get my leg. So we go to emergency. We get him checked out. They wouldn't tell us what it was, but they admitted him right away. They said he had to see a specialist the very next day at a bigger hospital, which was in another area. So we stayed overnight. They wanted to process him, but they wouldn't give us anything because of what it was, the nature of what it was. It had to be a specialist, had to be the one to deliver that type of news to you. But of course I know this now, but then it was like,
Yeah, because they don't want any, we've had that happen in our family where not the doctor told my aunt that she had cancer.
Right.
And found out she didn't.
Wow.
So I think they try to really, because, you send people into a panic and then you just, you know what I'm saying? And then you can't explain to me what's going on. So it's best that the specialists come in because they can really talk to you about.
Yeah, the emotions of that, just so that roller coaster, what it does to families, very stressful.
So
it's very stressful.
Before you continue, were there any signs prior to that one incident that when you think back?
When I think back, there's maybe one other time where his walk was a little off. He had mad swag, but his walk was a little off. And I said, do you feel that? Did you just see you kind of like a little balance thing? Right? And he said, yeah, I did. He said, I haven't been feeling myself lately. And I said, And then when he went in for the restaurant, that's when I put my foot down. Because, men we don't want to go to the doctors as it is, but men really don't want to go to the doctors. Like, that's not something that they do, and he didn't even like going for physicals. We had the same doctor, which is so cool. We had the same doctor. So he would like schedule our physicals. So I'm like, okay, I'll schedule our physicals together. We would go together. Of course, we couldn't go in the room together for privacy reasons. We had to go individually, but our doctor thought it was like super cool that we, chosen. So we had him for like a decade. We shared the same doctor, which was cool. So yeah, so with the leg and everything, so he gets checked out. We end up finding out the next day what it was, and my husband, because he's a rocket scientist, told the doctor he was wrong. He was like, you got the wrong guy, you got the wrong whatever. No. And the doctor looked at me. First of all, I was in a wheelchair because I can't walk. And so the doctor's trying to figure out who's the patient here because he's pushing me in the chair.
Yeah.
So we're like, and we were joking and laughing like the whole entire time with this, because that's just the type of couple we were. And we were like, what's going on with us? Oh my goodness. Okay, I guess we're supposed to be going through this, but not knowing that it was going to end the way it was going to end. Right. So, yeah. So anyway, after that, they scheduled him for biopsy that week, and I was scheduled for surgery 2 days before that. Same hospital. So when I had the surgery, and even at the last minute, the doctor said, you sure you want to do this? We can go on your leg, and it could still not solve anything or this and that. And I'm like, we got to go in. It's infected. I'm telling you, it's infected. I'm telling my doctor this. Wow. So they went in, and again, they keep coming back like, wow, you were dead on here. You were dead on here. You were dead on here. So important, ladies and gentlemen, to be in tune with your mind, body, and soul. And a lot of it has to do with tuning out noise that we always talk about, because you need to be able to allow yourself to think, process, and really have a sense for what's going on with you,
And not just take, like, people think like they can't get another opinion with the doctor. Like, oh, it's just their word. Like, no, I still don't feel good. Like, I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah, you have to do that. Yeah.
Speaking up for yourself is so important.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, oh my goodness, ladies, this was just a crazy trying time. It was stressful, and so I ended up having the surgery, and Ren spent the night with me. They brought a roller bed out and everything was on the side of me. I was in bad shape. I was in real bad shape. Had a PICC line in my arm, and I couldn't walk at all. I had to have help every time. It was just, I was in bad shape, and I knew I was in bad shape, and I did not know how I was going to get out of this. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to get out of this? And he's sleeping next to me in the roller bed they have, and we're holding hands, and this kind of stuff. And 2 days later, he had his biopsy, and he was 2 floors. He was 2 floors. He was 2 floors up. I don't remember if he was above me or below me, but he had his biopsy at the same hospital. We were 2 floors apart. I couldn't be there for him because I was too busy, with this big ass cast on my leg, and I was out. I was on every drug you could think of, and so thank God for my family and my friends and my niece. And I did pack his bag for him, and my niece made sure he got to the appointment on time. So he literally went from my hospital room 2 floors to get the biopsy. And then they kept him for a couple of days to monitor him. So we're in the hospital together, but we can't see each other for a couple of days. It was the first time we was ever apart from each other. First time we weren't like in the same bed together, and those things. And so he after that, and after a couple of days, because he doesn't like anything. He doesn't like needles. He doesn't like, he draw, like, drawing blood is like hurting him. Like, so as soon as they said he can go, he bounced. He had to go home. That was just too much for him, between me and him in the same week. And so so after that, it took some time. I had to go to a rehab hospital for a month, and he wasn't allowed to spend the night there. So my family made sure I was good and everything, and I had to learn how to walk, to the best of my ability, and use the wheelchair, because I had to be sent home with a wheelchair. So after I got out from the month, his results came in, and then we found out what it was. And I remember my son that he helped me raise from age 5, took him to the appointment, and they came back, they told me what it was, and I got on Google and I'm like, what is this? Glioblastoma, what the heck is this? And then I found out that, our Senator John McCain passed away from that, and our Vice President Joe Biden's son, Bo, I think he was 46 years old when it happened to him. And there's been some children now that has developed it. But anyway, I remember him saying, we're not going to talk about this anymore. We know what it is, and that's that. And I'm like, okay, so we didn't, talk about it. And then about a week later, now mind you, I'm in the wheelchair. About a week later, he had his first seizure. Seizures is part of the deal. There's a lot. It just depends on who you are and everything. And thank God my niece was in the room just talking to him, and she saw his eyes, and stuff. And so he had his first seizure, and we had to take him back in. And when we took him in, that's when they told him, they were like, hey, you either gonna try some of our different ways of surgery. Yes, we don't have a cure for this, but we have some ways we could try this, different things. Or you go home, and the doctor said, and die. Wow. The doctor said that. That's how aggressive and that's how serious this is. And he had to be direct like that, because he knew
Lorenzo.
My husband was, Renz was like, whatever, this is not the way I'm going out, And so so he chose home hospice. He chose home hospice. He was 48 years old, and I remember crying like a baby in the wheelchair, and just like, wow, I can't believe we're facing this. And so I took care of him with hospice. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience with hospice, and at the same time trying to get myself back healthy. As I was improving, he was declining. That was really hard.
Yeah.
And so I know, like you said, you were going through a lot at that time, and your husband was home, you were home healing with your leg. So how important was it for you to have like a support system, and like who were those people in your life that really was there for you and him during that time?
Yeah, definitely my son and my nieces. In fact, my niece Mercedes' husband flew her in, and she prepared meals for us at home. Jaji moved in months before that, which is her sister. And, my son, they did all the grocery shopping to make sure the apartment was clean and organized for us, and make sure I was present for my appointments, because I had therapy at home. They had to come and work with me. Of course, mentally I wasn't there, but I was trying to do what I could do. It was hard watching somebody that you love just slip away, and looking at each other and not being able to control the situation. Because both of us have that control. We had that control problem. We had that, I don't know, we just like to handle everything, and this was something out of our control, and we were both experiencing something that we never saw coming our way. So my family was very, very there for me in and out of town. Let me tell you, my friends, my husband was part of the Masonic order. He has a bunch of brothers and sisters that were there for us. So we kept it peaceful, loving, fun, and uplifted. He told the doctors he appreciate their offer, but he's going to go home and watch Netflix.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I remember that, Shauna. When you told us, I remember, I think you either texted or you called Jeanette and I, and we were like, so what are you guys up to? You're like, you were watching Netflix. And I could just see you sort of sitting next to him just in my mind.
Yes.
I hadn't made the trip to Ohio just yet to see you. And I know about coming up there, but I could just totally see you there, and just like, wow, you were talking about some of the shows you were watching, and sort of, what your family was doing. And to go back to Jeanette's point about just that support system and having those people rally around you, I'm like, wow, she had help,
Major.
People beg for that these days,
Yes.
in our society. Like, wow, you think sometimes people have it, and maybe that's the storm in itself, that you don't have as much help, but you were so blessed to have those folks, rally around you and really support you and Lorenzo during that time.
And also to be open to it, because
Mm-hmm.
you and from, the few years that I've known you and the one time that I met friends, like, I feel like, y'all are very independent people. Like, you take care of each other, but y'all are very independent people. And a lot of people's pride won't allow other people to do stuff for them when they're sick, when they're, just going through some things. So having like to surrender.
It wasn't easy.
You both were in a point where you didn't really even have a choice. Like, you had to surrender.
Zero choice.
Allow your family to really be there for you. And like Lynda said, it's just really, it's a blessing, one, to just have that support system, and to have those people readily available.
Sure.
Yes, I'm very extremely grateful. So for my familia, my amigos and amigas out there, I am extremely, extremely grateful. I'm in a much better space. I'm a year and a half out, and used a lot of different tools and techniques to help me, I say, get my boots on the ground.
So when we talk about like how, from that point to now, was there like very specific steps you took? Because I know a lot of people who experience loss and they really don't take time to figure out like what to do next or how to.
Yes.
Can you talk about like some of the steps that you took after the loss of your husband?
After the loss of my husband, my therapy was able to get me out of the wheelchair and onto a cane. So I was using a cane, and I love to travel. I think I've mentioned that before. And I knew that I needed to be still. I needed to process, because from my leg to his head to his homegoing, 5 months.
Wow.
And it was just a huge amount of stress. So I started this thing called Grief Journey. At the same time, though, my leg wouldn't bend. So I needed a second leg surgery.
You said you had another surgery.
Yeah. So, but I told my doctors, you know what? I just buried my husband. I need a moment, and I'll get back to that. It's not that I didn't want to take care of myself. It's that mentally I was spaced out. And there is no way I could think about a second surgery at that moment. So I did a little grief journey, and I traveled, visited families that poured into me, and it was wonderful. That was one of the first steps: music, writing, journaling, and I enrolled with grief counseling. So which I just finished counseling. I want to say it's 2 months now.
I remember that moment. Like, talk about that. Like, when you really, like you were some missed appointments, or where your counselor wasn't available or something like that, and then you were like, oh my God, it's been so many days, or was it a couple of weeks? And you were like, but I'm good. Like, I feel really good. Can you talk about that and how,
I highly recommend, if you are able to seek some type of counseling after any type of loss. I admired my husband. He was my mentor, my coach. And he never talked about regrets, but there was one that he had, and he would bring it up all the time. He lost his mother a year before I met him. So when I met him, Renz was grieving, but I didn't know what grief was like until my father-in-law passed a year before my husband. So I don't have a mother-in-law, father-in-law, or husband right now. But my father-in-law, when he passed, I saw the same old Lorenzo, from 23 years back. I'm like, oh, that was that major grief he was dealing with. Well, he would always talk about how he one of his regrets was not seeking counseling after his mother passed, and that he really needed that. And so he would tell anybody, that especially if they lost a parent, he would tell them, seek counseling. Don't do what I did. I did all types of things that, hurt myself in and out, that I could have avoided by just brain dumping or speaking to someone about it. So I took his advice. And I got the therapy. And honestly, I wouldn't be where I am right now without that therapy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's awesome that you did. And other family members also sought counseling as well. So I think that's just really important, because while, you know, you and your husband have a very close bond and relationship, other people also have relationships with these people too, and they love them. And I think you feel like, as the other person, that that I'm not married to him, so I can't grieve as much as they grieve. But we do, you know, we all experience that type of loss. And I think it's just important that
everybody hurts.
to honor that and recognize that.
They hurt for the loss. They hurt for you. They hurt for themselves. They've all had a bond and a relationship with this person. One of the things that I wasn't going to do was discount anyone else's feelings and connection and relationship to him.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people feel like you said, you know, they don't know how to approach you. They don't know how to speak to you. So I made sure I provided a way for people to handle me, to understand how to handle me and what I was going through, because the last thing I needed was to push people away. Yeah. I needed their love more than ever in my life. So I worked really hard to stay open and let them know how they can handle me. I mean, it was points where family would come around and is this song okay? You know, is this, you know, things like that. And I'm like, oh no, I'm totally good with all of that. I'm good with that, you know. And one of the things that that worked for me, and it doesn't work for a lot of people, but having my pictures out, seeing our journeys together, that helped me a lot, because it's all I have now, you know, is our love. But the beauty of the love is that love never ends.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Shauna, I appreciate you sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
I know that it's not easy for everyone. You said it'll be 1.5 years by the time this airs. And so we're actually going to talk to Lynda a little bit about her story and just her experience with having to have that same type of resilience through like different types of losses. Yeah. And, you know, having stuff. God, wow, it's kind of not similar, but like just like the back-to-back, dealing with two different things at the same time. So Shauna was dealing with like her body trying to break down on her at the same time her husband was going through this, and also her husband. So trying to heal yourself mentally and physically at the same time. So Lynda, do you want to tell our audience about your story?
Oh yeah. I want to say one thing about Shauna though. So I guess about 3 or 4 months after Lorenzo's passing, I went to visit Shauna.
Yes.
And that was amazing.
The first time we ever met in person.
First time we met in person, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." First time me ever driving to Ohio, which I felt like, wow, I felt, you know, powerful, right? I'm driving from DC to Ohio, where Shauna lives. It's about 6 hours from me. You know, got up early, left at like 5:30 in the morning, headed up there. We laughed together, we cried together.
Yes.
We ate a lot of good food.
Yes, yes.
We hung out. I mean, it was really, really great. So just being able to be part of that journey. And I remember hearing from Shauna, you were in, I think I called you or texted you, I'm in Phoenix. I'm like, what? Where?
Oh, this is cool. Everywhere.
Everywhere, just in that short period of time.
I had to. It was the only way I could function.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Right.
It was like, she's where? So you had done so much, and I think I came up there late July of last year, and it was just wow, getting there, just seeing you, being able to hug you and all that. And
Lynda, that was so big for me, that someone that I had an online connection with for 4 years hopped in their car, left their family to come be by my side at the most critical time of my life. My online community, I can't say enough about my online community. The eNanny Link community, everyone, the outpouring of love, text messages, everything. So thank you, Lynda.
No, sure.
And Jeanette.
Thank you for having me. It was it's great. And Jeanette, I mean, for me, it was hard. I mean, 2009, 10-ish were like years of just kind of craziness. So I was like, I think I talk about my dad a lot. I was very close to my dad, like super close. And, you know, my mom and our family, very small family, very close to. My father was an only child. His mother was an only child. On my mom's side, my mom has a sister, and then my grandmother and so forth. So in 2009, you know, I thought like I was the top of the world, right? 2 kids, married, husband, all those different things. And my family, we took a trip to Atlanta. My cousin had gotten married. And so we were down there, and, my father went, my stepmom, she was there as well. And, we took the kids, and Maddie had to be, I don't even think she was 2 yet. Yeah, she was like a year and a half, maybe. Miles was probably like 8-ish, I guess. So we're there, and we're there for this beautiful wedding. When we got back, I think maybe around that time, the timeline is kind of fuzzy. I think my stepmother's mom had passed. But then shortly after that, you kind of notice things. My dad, he was sleeping a lot, but it was like, oh, he's just tired. It was a long trip. They decided to do the sleeper car train from Newark, New Jersey down to Atlanta. I said, oh, this is cool. Y'all are going to have fun. So me and my ex-husband, Mike, and, the kids and I, we drove to Atlanta from DC. It took us about 12 hours. You got 2 kids. You're going to have to stop and with Maddie changing diapers and all that kind of stuff. So didn't really notice anything then. So things were just kind of going along. And so I think it was November 2009, get this kind of, cryptic text from my stepmom, because they were going to stay in New Jersey for the holidays. We always did the holidays together. And she said, we're coming to Maryland for Thanksgiving. I was like, what? Okay. So I had to like totally flip everything around. So I was like, we are doing what? So the Friday before Thanksgiving, I guess my stepmom wanted to tell us that my father was sick before they actually showed up. And so I just remember freezing on the phone, like, what do you mean sick? What are you talking about? Like, he has stage 4 cancer. I'm like, he just ran a marathon in August of 2009. It is now November. What do you mean? So my sister and I are trying to process this whole thing. He gets here. My father was big, tall, 6'4", big guy, right? And just very, kind of powerful in his own right, had his own business, doing his thing. And we got word that he was sick. And my life just felt like it just stopped. And things in my marriage were okay, but I knew that something was going on. But I took a segue. I was like, okay, this is my dad. This has got to be what it is.
Lynda, was there any warning or anything like that, or it just?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I mean, thinking back, my father, we live in the DC area, and my stepmom and father lived in New Jersey. So we would, visit, when we could, 4 or 5 times a year. Didn't really notice anything other than thinking back to earlier that summer that he was sleeping a lot at the hotel. I'm like, okay, maybe he's just tired. Like I said, long trip, any long trip like that.
Yeah.
So no warning when he got here. When they came for Thanksgiving that year, he was, walking and talking and, doing his thing, and it was fine. So a few weeks later, we found out, what the cancer actually was. But at that time, he had already had, the scan, and he had kidney cancer that spread. And so that determined that to be stage 4. So December 9th of that year, he had to have the tumor removed. So my sister and I and Julie, we were at the hospital. I drove up. I think my sister and I, like I said, things are just so fuzzy. And, and thinking about, what we had to do, we had to be there. So at the same time, so this was like late 2009, Christmas time, things were starting to get really crazy at home too. And of course, me being me, I didn't know. I was like, oh yeah, in the clouds, Miss Happy Lady all the time. I always had to turn it on. Things in my marriage started to take a crazy turn. And I just felt like I was out of my mind. I couldn't do everything. So February 6, 2010, 10 weeks after my father was diagnosed, he passed away.
10 weeks?
10 weeks, yeah. And it was, I was in New Jersey for about a week and a half. That's when that big, they called it Snowmageddon back in 2010. So we had 48 inches of snow here or so in the DC area, and DC just shut down. I made it out before everything kind of hit. New Jersey got like 30 inches of snow.
Wow.
And so that was, so being there for my stepmom, I think I took it the hardest because I just shut down. Like I was like the biggest baby of them all. We're at the hospital. The doctors were like, yeah, can you sign this hospice form? And I'm like, nope. I sat there. I just wouldn't process it.
Yes.
Therapy wasn't a thing that, our folks believed in. So it was like, no, you don't do that. I was like, oh no, I need to talk to somebody. So I was sitting there, arms folded, shut down. My husband, at the time brought the kids up for the service and everything. And things were still just really kind of rocky, but I attributed it to, I'm just emotional and I'm not, it's just a storm we're going through. It's going to get better.
Right.
So, yeah. So I finally came back home probably after about 2 weeks because I had to help with the affairs and so forth. And then things just took a left turn in my marriage. I started seeing some things and maybe it cleared up, but I did seek grief counseling for my dad.
Awesome.
Going through that. And but that ended up turning into some sort of like marital counseling. It turned, and I had the same person, and it just
did you really?
I did. It morphed into this timeline of bouncing ideas and things off of her that were going on. I would be in there crying, and Jeanette and I always joke. We talk about Capricorns and the signs of the astrology. Capricorns have thug tears. Okay,
eyes just be sweating.
I'll be blinking. I'm like, and my dad was a Capricorn too, so that was our connection there. The January birthdays, right?
Aww.
And his mother, my grandmother, January 25th. We always had that thing going.
My grandma was a Capricorn.
Yeah, so I was like, no, we're not gonna cry. We're not gonna sit here and do this. But I just felt so much better just being able to release, because I always felt like I had to be in control of my emotions. And I think that was something that hurt me more than it helped, because I didn't acknowledge it. But having those two things go back to back. So 2010, my dad passed. 2010 obviously was not a good year. I'm asking my ex-husband a lot of questions, like, what's going on? Did I do something? Is it me? Is it this? Is it that? And things just kind of exploded. So exactly 2 years, almost to the day that my father passed in January 2012, it was like, so it's just shy of 2 years, my husband and I split. And Maddie was 3, Miles was 10, and it was devastating. So I had to get myself back on track.
That's heavy.
Financially, just like I was ready to just give it all up. Like if I had to give up the house, it was gonna be gone. I'm like, all right, kids, we got $5. Y'all, mommy not gonna have nothing. Because I want to see you all be okay, and I had to be strong and be okay.
I was going to say that had to have been really challenging emotionally to try to process your own emotions, what you're going through, and then to try to be strong for your children, or model what strong behavior is.
Right. And I think I was at the point where, the people, of course, had their opinions about things and questions and this, that, and the other. But I had to focus on what was going on here with me, and then with Miles and Maddie. I could not just take all of that in, at that time. So I had to say, okay, so that's why I was so glad that I had the counselor that I did. And she was so resilient enough to be able to flip over from the whole grief thing to the ending of my marriage. I'm like, because I thought,
that's beautiful.
Somebody else. I mean, it was so seamless how we transitioned our relationship from the grief itself, and then knowing that there were some factors there that contributed to the demise of my marriage. At the same time.
I wonder if that's something that she was familiar with doing with clients, or if maybe you were one of her first that experienced something so close like that, because a loss of someone, losing someone is there's a lot of similarities when you're going through a divorce, because you're losing a part of your life that you both of them are in common, where you're losing a part of a relationship and a part of a lifestyle that you were accustomed to.
Yeah. And that was tough.
Because you grieve a marriage too, you grieve that too.
The loss itself, the person is, here, you're here, you're having to deal with kids and co-parenting, and it was not easy. And it had only been a couple of years since my dad passed, so just still grieving that whole process too, it contributed to a lot of different, there were a lot of tears, a lot of down moments, and initially, people knew about my dad, but, when it came to the divorce and such, I didn't really, because I'm sort of a low-key kind of person. I love to talk and all that, but I'm kind of low-key, like I'm okay being in the background kind of thing. So when the things were going on with the separation, divorce, I didn't tell a lot of people. And then as I, told it in my own way, I mean, people really, showed up and, helped me with different things. And like I said, I was like, am I gonna have to pack up this house and move? Okay, I will do what I have to do. You know what? Because it was a huge financial hit as well. and having to get back on track from that in itself, because we need financial stuff, money to live,
Yes,
jobs
exactly.
and different things. So I didn't have the means to not be able to sustain that. So I was like, all right, we got to just pack up. But I was able to do it. There was a lot of phone calls to a lot of creditors and mortgage companies. Like, I was very nice to them. So for you listeners out there, you got to do it, be nice. If you need some templates, I got you. Holler at your girl here. I can use some templates to kind of talk, because it is easy to get frustrated because they're calling you saying, I need this and I want my money, and you owe them. But just be creative, talk. Just talk it out. Have somebody that you can actually talk to and get that help. So yeah, so it was hard. And I would say, yeah, go ahead, Jeanette.
I'm sorry, Lynda.
No,
I was gonna say I find that it's interesting because it's one thing that we talked about with Shauna, where being open to letting people help, and but also you have to also protect yourself too from those people who want to put their grief on you. And now you got to be strong for them. And so being able to protect yourself and know, like, okay, this is my bubble, and these are the people that I know are here to really support me. And I'm not saying everybody's intentions are not the best, but sometimes it's just like, when I process stuff like that, or if I'm going through things, I don't want to talk about it sometimes. I just don't want to talk about it over and over. Sometimes I just want somebody to make me laugh. That's how I deal with a lot of things. Humor. I'll cut to a joke real quick. But, just being able to protect yourself and your energy. Shauna, did you find that you had to do that as well? Like,
yes, I found that I was running into a lot of people that experienced the loss of a spouse, and the conversation would almost lead to like trying to out grief. And it was the weirdest feeling, because it was like, I'm not, my story. Yeah.
It's not a competition, guys.
Like, believe me, if I don't even want to be in this race with you right now.
Right. I don't even want to be in this zone. This is not the life that I asked for. This is not, I saw us, we always joked and said our relationship was graveyard shift, but I didn't know it was going to be this soon. And, a lot of people say the quality of what we had was like thousands of years of love. And so I learned to appreciate, the 24 years, but honestly, to us, it was short.
Yeah.
It was short. It was so much more, I do have enough love to take me through my lifetime. It's something that we both created, but yeah, that's what I saw the most, was a lot of people out grieving or comparison, and my inner self would, a lot of times, like if I knew the person and I knew, the nature of the relationship, I'm like, that, no, that's, you're not on this. Yeah, I'm not gonna go there, but what Lorenzo and I had was very special, and all couples is not the same thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Lynda, I wanted to ask you, so when you think back to those times, was there any, like, so I know you sought counseling and you really took time for yourself and really focused on like your kids. Do you feel like you took a lot more smaller steps to kind of get through like your grief with your dad, and then, the divorce? Was there any other like steps you took, and, were they?
Yeah, I took a lot of small steps. I mean, for me, it was, connecting with friends. I did a lot of writing. And then one day, I think Shauna had mentioned this earlier, one day I realized, wow, I'm okay. And it was probably about a year later. That year, 2012, I hosted Christmas here at my house, which was always a big thing for my dad. So I was able to get through the financial stuff. And then after that was kind of a celebration for us, for me, Miles, and Maddie. And I was able to host Christmas dinner here, and it was really, really great. My stepmom came, my sister, we were all here together with the kids, and I took the smaller steps, but I just remember waking up and saying, oh, I'm good. How am I? It felt like things had lifted.
Yeah.
So it was almost 11 months to the day that things had lifted for me, and I took smaller, very small steps. A few months later, about 6 months later, that's when I wrote my first blog post. And I called it, it was this, like, I don't know if y'all remember this. It was like this orange and pink color blog. And it was before A Life with a View, but it sort of had that name.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote my first blog post about loss and about faith. And
I read it.
Yeah, it was about a year and a half later after we got divorced. So it was I think it was like July 2013 was when I wrote that. And I just kept writing. I wrote about the loss of my dad, because by then it had been 3 years, and, still sort of, writing was my saving grace. I started getting a little bit more comfortable with connecting with people online, and still, I have some really great friends in my life that, showed up once I told everybody what's going on. Because I admit I didn't tell a lot of people at first, because I was always of the mindset, oh, everybody else has their own problems. Why would they want to hear my stuff? And then I was always, kind of being there for other people and different things. And when I told them, they're like, oh my gosh, we have to help you. And one friend sent her husband over here to do some patchwork for my house. Another friend, she was like, look, I'll buy you groceries this week. And then another friend sent her husband over here to put Madison's bed together, because her bed couldn't afford to do it. Her bed was in pieces. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I got you, just tell us what you need. So nice. It was those type of things. And I thought about all of that in that 3.5 year journey to that first blog post. And I just started writing. And I saved those posts, and that was my first book, A Life with a View, which talks a lot about that.
That's so awesome. And I think it's important to know that, when people are going through different type of losses, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a friendship, like physical, loss of a person's life, that the way you grieve is how you grieve. Like it's like Shauna did, well, you both did counseling, like grief counseling, but then you also had travel therapy, Shauna and Lynda, you had writing therapy. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just important to note that there's so many different ways to work through that. I know when my daughter, like she experienced a whole lot, like that's why she's so super mature. So I had her at 17, but she experienced a lot with, issues with her dad, issues with my ex-husband. And I just remember her, and then she was a preteen, and like we could be sitting watching TV, and she's probably gonna kill me for saying this, but we could be sitting watching TV and we'd be perfectly fine, and then she just start crying, and I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, okay, and I kept telling myself, like, I got to get her some type of counseling, some type of therapy, but like Lynda said, it just wasn't like talked about. I didn't know who to ask. I didn't have like this online community like I do now and then. And I was like, I didn't know who to ask, like where to go, where to take her. And then are people going to like talk about her? What are people going to say? Like, I can't tell my family. They're so judgmental. Love my family to death. I think everybody's family is a little judgmental. Mm-hmm. But I actually never ended up seeking counseling. I remember I told her before too, like, I think we really need to get you somebody to talk to. And when we left Philly after my divorce and moved to South Carolina, when she was in high school, and she started this program called Bridges to a Brighter Future. Excellent program. Like they work with high school students, and like in the summertime they would go stay on at a local college and for like, I forgot how many weeks, but they would stay like over the summer, and they had like all kinds of programs for them, educational, team building, character building, all that kind of stuff. And I remember when she got to college, and she was like, Mom, you used to always say that I needed counseling. And she was like, that was better than any therapy I could have ever got, because the peer-to-peer counseling was better for her.
Yeah.
My eyes are sweating, people. I got to get it together.
Sorry.
You are fine.
It's hard being a mom and wanting to make sure you don't want your children to hurt. I mean, you will hurt for your children. That's right. You would take anything for your children. Yeah. And it's hard. Like my son is 31 now, and he was raised by Lorenzo since he was 5. And it's something, he came and visit me, and it's just us two now, and it's weird. Yeah. It's really, really weird that Lorenzo is not here, physically with us. We know he's here spiritually. We feel him. We feel his presence. He gave us enough love, education, tools, resources for my entire family. He was truly an angel, and we are so grateful that we were chosen to be, his path. And I always thank God that I was chosen to be his wife and to be the one to take care of him. And he would, there was at a point where he couldn't talk anymore, and he would give me 2 thumbs up because I'll say, "Am I taking care of you? Okay?" And he'll do this, like, he'll smile and like.
I cannot wait for people to read this love story because
It'll be amazing.
So amazing. Like,
thank you. It's coming out February 14, 2021, Valentine's Day.
That is awesome. Yeah. You have 2 books now.
Yes. So A Life with a View and A Life with a View, Inspiring Creative Passion. That's a follow-on in the Life with a View series. And for I did a book collaboration called Little Girls Dreams recently. That was last summer, and I have a chapter in that book.
Nice.
A lady named Michelle Hammond, who's awesome and excellent. She does a lot of book collaborations, and we absolutely love her. And she pulled these stories out of 6 women who wanted to follow their dreams as little girls, and sort of going back to that. So I kind of felt like I was in that place when I wrote my first blog post, and I said, "Ooh, this is me. This is what I need to do here." And I actually pulled it out. So that little $5 that I had that got Miles and Madison through, it has stretched a long way in the last 8.5 years,
wow.
It's been 8.5 years since my divorce. It's been, I can't even still believe it's been that long. Wow. And just over 10 years for my dad passing. So I look back, and we have great memories, with my dad and our family. My sister, my stepmom, we sometimes even joke about how I'm a lot like my dad in my little ways sometimes. But I think about all those things, but there's just sort of the after part of it, and continue to build myself up, which is something that I've had to work on personally, just being more confident and kind of trailblazing my path. And I just doing that and not being afraid to step out there. So
and I think that's so important. I know we talk a lot about pursuing your passions on here and owning your greatness, and I feel like some people, when they go through different type of challenges and storms in their life, they shut down. And then they give up. Like, they feel like life is over. Like, what's the point? Why should I continue? But both of you ladies have like thrived because you were able to work through that and find like resilient, find your strength through there. And I just look at like how you've grown, your brand has grown, and like all the things that you've done. And I know, like, Shauna, you talked about, like Lorenzo would be like, "You better not quit. Like, that is not
exactly.
This is not what we do." And you were able to really like just reinvent yourself, Lynda, and become like this totally different person that you probably didn't even realize. We talk about like, owning our voice and like finding your voice and all of that. Can you talk about how, either one of you, how, you've changed after going through these different experiences in your life?
Yeah, I never thought I'd be sitting here as a creative. I'm like, me being creative? No, I'm in this box and I'm walking this straight path. But being able to help others, I think, because I wish I had a bunch of knees back then when I was going through what I was going through. But, creating something that people can draw from. Yes. And really use as a blueprint in their life. And I mean, I've shared both books with a lot of people, and, Little Girls Dreams being shared too with a lot of people in different communities, and being able to share that, and then just that growth itself. So now I have people that want to tell their story. So just under a year ago, I added to my brand a publishing company for publishing people's works. And so I've recently published a children's book. So I did that. I'm working with Shauna on an upcoming project that she has, a couple of them, and being able to help people or be the conduit to help people voice them, I guess, hear themselves, and help them be their best self as far as writing, as far as putting themselves out there. I had one client I worked with recently, and they were like, "Nope, I'm not. I'm just going to write this book and that's it. Now it's a brand. around this project. And I'm like, wow, that's a trailblazer right there. I'm holding on, trying to hold on to her, and she's doing amazing. So being able to be that person, to that stepping stone. I want to be that to people, and also continue being relatable to them and just helping. I just, that's always been in me. The creative kind of thing, sort of, for me, it seems like it came out of nowhere, this whole creative thing. I was like, I'm not a creative, and we talk about this, oh, I can't draw, I don't know how to put blocks together, those types of things. But being creative in my own right has allowed me to continue this path. And I feel like I have a long way to go, and I'm so happy to be here.
I love
And
it.
I feel like, Lynda, that you're one, I'm still working on this. We talk about loving the process, and you make it look so easy.
Yes.
The way you handle everything. And I know a lot of it, I admire your preparedness, your organization skills. And I think, yes, you're welcome. I think that has a lot to do with, you keeping it, together and acknowledging where you want to work on a little bit harder, or I just love that. And I think that that's what's helped you get to the point where you're a power force now. Like you're a force to be reckoned with.
Thank you. I'm always very kind of like behind the scenes, kind of low. I'm okay being right here, and Miles gets it from me. Madison, y'all know, hey Maddie, shout out to
Hey Maddie.
Me, I'm okay. I can just lay back in the cut and be just fine. But I also know that I need to help people. And that's sometimes I'm like, oh, I gotta get out there. I gotta get in front of people. But then again, if I need to sit back, I'm fine doing that too. And that has, sort of knowing that, having that balance, and this sort of my personality. Yeah, I like to talk, but I'm also okay if somebody else does, But I've been able to help people, and also kind of bring myself along too, which has been good.
Lynda, do you think that because Maddie was really young when all this happened, do you think that because I know you said you used to be really reserved and you kind of let other people take the lead before, that is why Maddie is so vocal about what she wants, who she is, because you've allowed her that space? Because subconsciously, I don't know if you did it intentionally or unintentionally, you didn't want her to ever like hold back her voice and not speak up for herself. Do you think that attributed to that?
Definitely. Yeah. She has her own voice. She is like 10 times, where I am now. And even then, I mean, she would ask questions and different things. I'm like, wow, she's got it.
Yeah.
She does.
Being able to allow her to do that and being in this space, I think that definitely attributed to that. And yeah, I just don't think people sometimes want to silence you for different reasons, whether, they think you're too this or too that, or too happy, too smiley. Because even after a few months after my dad passed, I think we went to an Easter dinner with another family. And it was interesting, like, wow, she's okay. Why are you smiling? Your dad just passed, and what's going on? I think, Jeanette, that was to your point earlier. I needed somebody I just couldn't stay in that dark place forever. Yeah, I grieved, and I continued to grieve, and still am to this day, 10 years later. You grieve in different ways, but I had to get back to who I am in my original self. But for Maddie, just showing her, she said, Mom, you are a strong woman. You're this, you're that. Maybe I'm showing it to her, but maybe I'm like, oh, really? I am? She's like, yeah, we're going to do this to your hair today. This is what we're going to do. It's like, okay. So it's sort of.
We love her.
It is, it is surreal just seeing her. And she, like I said, she was 3 when everything happened. And she was 20 months, I think, when my father passed. Wow. So, yeah.
So Shauna, like to the same question that I asked, that Lynda just answered, I know you spoken before about how this next part of your journey, how like you felt like Renzo almost knew that you had to go through this next journey kind of without him. Can you talk a little bit how that's been, how you've grown, and after, everything and the silver lining, even though, we all still grieve and we have our moments, but.
Yes. Unconsciously, we had a discussion. I had an opportunity to work with some NBA players with my the nanny services that I was providing for private clients at the time. And I had an opportunity to do something really big with a particular player. And I remember letting him know about it, and he loved the idea of it. And he looked me straight in the eyes and he said, I think this is great for you, and but you're going to have to continue this journey on your own. And I was like, huh? Why would you say something like that? Yeah. Like, why would you say something like that? And he had no reason, it was just
way before.
Yeah, it was way before.
Mm.
So that is interesting. And seeing myself now, I always had a passion to help families and children across the world, which he asked me to not give up on my brand, eNanny Link, and to continue to grow that, and that it was going to take me to spaces and places that I could never imagine. And right now, as a person, I'm my most raw, real self. I'm very different. This whole experience has changed me, along with not being able to walk for a year has changed me. Stuff that I used to like kind of let bother me, or get under my skin sometimes, like, it's not important anymore. When you lose someone, and you're that close to them, and and like you said, you use the word reinventing yourself, because that's what I'm doing right now. Is I have to reinvent myself, because I have to continue life with his love, but without his physical presence. And now I have to make the full decisions 100% for the way I want my journey to go, and the way that I feel or sense that it should go. So I'm a part of a group called the 360 Power Configuration, and we work on a lot of meditations together with Deepak Chopra, and we're hoping that one day in the future we'll be able to attend one of his meditation camps.
That would be awesome.
Yes. So some of the pieces that we work on we're supposed to be considered future proof of that you can overcome anything, no matter what's going on out here, especially what's going on right now with the pandemic. And before we even got to the end of any of these meditations, the group collectively would say, Shauna's already future proof, that you can overcome challenges, and that you can find your inner strength, and just really find your way. So I don't know all the answers. I know what I would like to be involved in. I know what I like to do. I know what I'm good at. I got all of those pieces, but I'm really clueless about how this next chapter of my life is going to go. But I'm such at a real space that I'm willing to work with the universe to find it. And my niece told me that I was blessed, because she said I had a third life. She said, you had a life before my uncle, you had a life with him, and now you're going to get ready to have a third part. You've been given another opportunity to have a new life. And as suck as it is to be in this situation, I would never in my wildest dream choose this.
Right.
You have to be grateful for things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Definitely. I just want to say, like, I admire you both so much, and we talk
Thank
a
you.
lot. There's so many things that we talk about that probably makes the show. But I just want you both to know that I just admire you both so much. Your strength, your confidence, just the women that you are. It just makes you, like, when you see people go through things and you see them blossom out of it, it just helps you. It gives you strength that, like, okay, I know that if I go through anything even close to or remotely as rough, or even not even that tough, that I know I'll be able to overcome it, but I also have the people in my life that can help me get through it. So I just want to say I admire you both a lot.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna let my eyes sweat no more today.
Oh, okay.
But I want to know if you both, if y'all want to talk about just leave the people with like a call to action, something that, just a piece of advice, a word of encouragement, or something to help them if they're possibly going through, something similar, or just a transition in their life that they're struggling with right now.
Yeah, definitely. I would say take the time you need, acknowledge your feelings, and take the time you need to heal. And no one can tell you what that timeline is or is not. I think acknowledging it, that's something I struggled with initially, because earlier I mentioned, I was at an Easter dinner and had to turn on the happiness. But then if I really wasn't feeling that way or not feeling that way, I needed to acknowledge that and also take the time to heal. And I did that for a very long time. And it was, it was hard. It was a hard journey, but, allowing me and giving myself that time to heal, I was able to meet, great people like you ladies and other folks that came into my life. And I've sustained some very long friendships as well. And just, we're better friends. We talk about everything. I've had some lifelong friends too. And it was because of the work that I was doing internally with myself and really showing up and acknowledging, wow, there are other people out here who are going through those things. And I had to share in order to get the help and accepting the help.
Yeah. That's awesome. Shauna?
I would say be okay with accepting help, as Lynda was saying, and also /seek help. If you don't have the help, if you don't have a team around you, if you don't have the family around you, seek out the right help that you need to help you get yourself together. There's something to be said about mental health, right? We could do all the things, we could have all these big dreams, these aspirations, and all of these things. But if your mental health is not in the right space, you're not going to be able to carry on. And I recognize that for myself with the therapy. I come from that line of you don't seek therapy. Therapy begins in la casa, you keep that in the house kind of deal. So I'm glad that we're in a different space, in the world when it comes to that. So seek help. And if it needs to be professional help, so be it.
Yeah, definitely. And I know for me, with conversation with my daughter when she was really going through a lot of things that she was dealing with, I told her it's okay. You can have your moments, cry, you can be mad, whatever you want to do. You have your moments, and then you get yourself together, because you still have to live. You still have to have life. And also, and I know she didn't understand it as well then as she does now at the age of 23, but everything that happens in your life is not always about you. It's the story that you're going to be able to share with others to help someone else in their journey. And so sometimes you ask questions like, well, why do I got to be the one? I don't want to talk to people about this. But there's a reason that, you're the one that needs to share that story with other people. And when you embrace it and you see how you really help people, and certain people are drawn to you, and you just why are these people drawn to me?
Yes.
And, it's a process. And I don't think you ever stop grieving. You just have more brighter days than not. And it just is what it is. Not is what it is, but you just gotta allow yourself those moments to be. We're all human, and you just gotta allow yourself.
Give yourself permission to be happy. Give yourself permission for that joy. Part. Give yourself permission to have fun. And we get so. I know for myself, I'm pretty strict on myself. A lot of people say I should have been in the military, and I come from a long line of family in the military. You would have thought that I did serve in the way that I conduct myself. So in this new season, I've had to give myself permission to have a great summer. I was like, I need to have a great summer because last year sucked, and it's okay, Shauna,
And I think a lot of people, that's a great point, Shauna, that you made. A lot of people feel like they are, betraying the person that they lost by
Exactly.
not to be happy.
You do feel that way. Grief lies to you. There's a lot of lies in the grief world, you know. It robs you from so much, you know. And you do have to go through the feels, go through the experience, and, you know, go through all of those things, but know that you still have to live. You have to find a way. And I remember telling myself, even the day after he passed, I got to learn how to live differently, because it's going to be different. You know, and I had to get my mind to understand that concept, because what you had 24 years ago, it's no longer going to be like that. And it's just like the world that we were in prior to the pandemic. We are grieving as a world right now together. And we have to wrap our minds around the fact that that's whatever happened before March, or whatever time in the world it happened for the world, for you, where everything was shut down. The world's not going to be like that anymore. We have to learn to live differently. We're going to have to learn to adapt. We have to learn to accept, and we have to learn to be our best selves based on what we have, you know, going on in our lives. And today, if I may mention, in my meditation with Deepak and J Belvin, which is a Spanish superstar, they have this combination going on right now, and it spoke about peace and joy, and it spoke about how peace and joy you can have anytime you choose to have it, and you don't need to have tangible items in order to experience it.
Yep.
So I love that.
Thank you.
Well, ladies, I appreciate you. Shauna, do you want to, I mean, that kind of was, but
yeah.
Get some final remarks and close us out. Lynda, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add before.
I just want to thank you all for this space, you know, just for being here and, you know, allowing us to share our stories. You know, I think it's so important. And, you know, I haven't talked about it in a while, but it felt good to get it out there. And like I said, I'm low-key Lynda, right? LL? No. That was a cute plug there. Okay, that'll be in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, just, you know, just allowing me to share, because I just feel like it has lifted, and I'm able to share. It makes me happier to be able to share this and help other people. So yeah, I appreciate this space so much. Thank you.
Life after the storm, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same here. I'm glad for this space, and you know, whenever can be in the mood to talk about it, I will talk about it, and it makes me happy, because I never want to go through the rest of my life not speaking about my experience and this beautiful love story that I have, you know, which is the reason why I need to write this, is because it's out here, you know, everyone can have, you know, some type of beautiful love like that, and to, you know, those that may have been through this and maybe have not been able to snap away from the grief as much or get any kind of relief from it, you know, because it's very challenging, you know, it's very challenging. But I do appreciate this. I know it was kind of a deep episode for our listeners and our viewers, but this is the type of stuff that the Heart of Chat is all about. You know, we got to get deep and dive in. And, you know, the number one thing is we can't talk about anything else until our mental health is together. We can't even think about planning on doing anything else. So we have to stay on top of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Shauna, let folks know where they can find us and when to come back and check us out again.
Yes. So we are on Twitter, IG, and Instagram at The Heart of Chat. And if you haven't gotten your mug yet, don't forget to get your mugs. Our store is connected on our website. So yes, get your mug. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. We appreciate you. Yes, viewing the YouTube or listening to this, sharing it out. We appreciate everything. If you have any ideas or anything that you would like us to touch upon, let us know, DM us, email us, let us know. We want you to come back for another Meatful Monday, because it's going to be fuego, baby. Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.